Tonight on Joy News Prime, minority blames government for poorly managing dispute with independent power producer Ghana Power Generation Company, leading to the award of a $170 million judgment debt against Ghana.
It tells us that the government didn't plan well. The government didn't take this matter serious. First of all, I hold the view that it was wrong to have terminated the agreement, the way and manner in which this government went about it.
The Attorney General, however, disagrees and says public officials who signed the agreement will be investigated for their conduct. Ghana and 8 other countries to take part in phase 3 clinical trials for 2 new vaccines in development, with implications for the country's access to vaccines once the process is complete.
When you contribute in developing a product, you have a better chance of being given the vaccine. Normally, the sponsor would either donate some of the vaccines to you, either for free or at a cheaper rate.
We'll get some more understanding of what it all means. West African Examinations Council debunks report citing several flaws in 2020 WASI and threatens to sue authors.
African Education Watch refused to disclose the identity of informants. During last year's WASI, there were no actual questions that were leaked.
In business, Bank of Ghana outlines plan to boost its gold reserve with purchases from the local market over the next 5 years.
Key reforms that we set to do for ourselves since about a year and a half ago. We were looking for a way to buy gold domestically and be able to convert it into a foreign asset. And the way we are able to do that is because we are paying in cedis. If we're not paying in cedis, then we might as well just buy the gold from anywhere.
The court orders Jomoro MP Dorcas Afotofe to produce evidence of the renunciation of Ivorian citizenship.
Yes, we are disappointed because we know that the Supreme Court recently said that they were not granting discoveries.
My name is Israel. Joy News Prime is coming to you live from our Founder Studios at Kokolumi here in Accra on your digital terrestrial TV, because we're free to air, and also on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. This is the home of independent, fearless, credible, and impactful journalism. Stay tuned in. An Accra High Court has ruled that the receiver of defunct Unibank, Ni Amanu Dodu, can testify in the criminal trial of the bank's founder, Dr. Kwabena Dufo, and other officials. Now, Mr. Dodu was to be called as the state's first witness in the trial. Lawyers for Dr. Dufo, however, urged the court not to allow Mr. Dodu to testify. The court, however, ruled that Mr. Dodu was competent to testify. Court correspondent Joseph Akable in the following report looks at the key arguments that came up, plus an update of the case involving 10 persons accused of plotting to overthrow the government.
Basis for the objection is the role played by Mr. Dodu prior to being appointed as receiver. As a partner at auditing firm KPMG, the firm had audited the accounts of Unibank. This lawyers for Dr. Dufo say is worrying in that Mr. Dodu later took over the defunct bank when it went into receivership. They therefore urged the court not to allow him to testify. The state opposed the objection. Director of Public Prosecution Yvonne Atakro-Buobisa admitted Mr. Dodu was previously a partner at KPMG. She, however, argued his appointment as receiver was lawful. She urged the court to dismiss the objection since the witness met the requirement of qualifying to testify. Court of Appeal Judge Bright Mensah, who is hearing the matter as an additional High Court judge, dismissed the objection and upheld the DPP's arguments. He stated that Section 59 of the Evidence Act details who does not qualify to give testimony. None of the stated reasons barred Mr. Dodu from testifying. In the alleged coup plot case, the state called its second witness. The court had earlier heard the testimony of Colonel Michael Amponsa, who leads the Operational Defense Intelligence Wing of the Armed Forces. His seat was taken over on Tuesday by Chief of Staff of the General Headquarters of the Ghana Armed Forces, Major General Nicholas Peter Ando. He narrated to the court how individuals accused of plotting to overthrow government accused leaders of the 2 leading parties of massive corruption. Reference is said to have been made to 2 government agreements, one with Suba Info Solutions and another being the JIDA contract. The plotters are said to have claimed that since the MPP government took over, despite accusing the NDC of supervising these corrupt contracts, had done nothing to deal with them. This is said to have been an effort to convince the soldiers of the Ghana Armed Forces to join the cause, which they said was similar to the 1979 coup, which had Jerry Rawlings as a key figure. An assurance of a handsome reward is said to have been given to the participants. Assistant Commissioner of Police ACP Benjamin Agojo, Senior Military Officer Colonel Samokojo Gamili, and 8 others are facing charges including high treason. Their lawyers are set to cross-examine the state's second witness.
Elsewhere, Second High Court has ordered the Member of Parliament for Jomoro, Dorcas Afo-Tofe, to produce evidence of a renounced Ivorian citizenship at the court's registry within 10 days. This follows the petition filed by Joshua Emwa Kofi challenging the eligibility of the Jomoro MP that she's unfit to occupy the office as a people's representative for the Jomoro constituency in the Western region. The petitioner argued that the defendant, Dorcas Afo-Tofe, had at the time of filing her nomination to contest the 2020 parliamentary election failed to renounce her Ivorian citizenship. The court's intervention is expected to bring finality to strenuous efforts by lawyers of the petitioner to get the defendant to avail documentation that proves the renunciation of her citizenship. Justice Dr. Richmond Oseshre, who presided over the case, advised counsel for the defendant to produce the original documentation of renunciation of Dorcas Afo-Tofe's Ivorian citizenship within the stipulated time. Meanwhile, Regional Communications Director of the NDC, Kirk Menson, says he's not happy with the directive.
NDC Amayoku yako Supreme Court na verdict no this court the one grant application nanka one man.
Recently, the NDC asked the Supreme Court for an application to be granted for the EC to be investigated after the 2020 elections.
So, only the final authorities when it comes to law. Inti yababa High Court in the High Court obotumu granted the omakwanuma discoveries in documentary inspection.
The Supreme Court failed to grant out the inspection of documents and discoveries, but the lesser court has granted the discoveries. There are inconsistencies in the interpretation of the law.
Discoveries. Na lower court or high court kada one discoveries. Ana Ghana mbrano also maybe I interpret na ana yawo how but mana ye court proceedings in there. You be meet legal team of the party and the party will communicate to Obibiala the next line of action. Yes, we are disappointed because we know that the Supreme Court recently said that they were not granting discoveries.
Now, Ghana will be joining at least 8 other countries to roll out phase 3 clinical trials for 2 COVID-19 vaccines. About 1,500 volunteers will receive at least 1 full dose of the Russian-made Sputnik Light vaccine or the Sanofi vaccine in a space of 13 months. Already, similar trials are being run in the US, Russia, Egypt, and the UAE. Yes, team lead for the trials of the Sputnik Light vaccine in Ghana, Dr. Alberta Amu, with details of the exercise.
Designed is a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled international multi-site study. The duration of participation is up to 201 days. There's a screening period of up to 7 days. Then there is vaccination. Then a follow-up period of 180 days, plus or minus 14. The locations for the study are United Arab Emirates, Russia, Ghana, and Egypt. The study will cover participants who are 18 years and above and are healthy. Throughout the world, there will be 6,000 participants. The random allocation will be 1:3. 1 of active IP to 3, I'm sorry, let me take it again. 1 placebo, 2, 3 IP. Random allocation. So in Ghana, there are going to be 2 study sites, the Dodo Health Research Center, and the team will be led by me. We are going to recruit a total of 500 participants. In Avrongo, they will also recruit 500, and the team is led by Dr. Nana Kosi-Ansah. The study will start on the 28th of June, and the schedule of events will be: number 1, the first after community mobilization and sensitization. The first visit O will be screening. After participants have screened, and those who are found eligible, and provide informed consent, written informed consent of active participation in the study.
With the current global shortage of vaccines due to vaccine nationalism, Director of the Research and Development Division of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Abraham Oduro, believes Ghana's participation in the advanced clinical trials will better position it to access the jabs when they are ready.
The Sputnik V and the Sputnik Light, the difference is that the V has 2 doses, it was 3 weeks apart, and the Light are just the first dose. But the available evidence suggests that the Light has about 80% efficacy compared to about 90% plus in the V. So if you combine the fact that we are going to give only 1 dose, the logistic bit of it, the cost bit of it, and everything together, and looking at some of the available vaccine that we are using, some of them even around 60%, then obviously if we are successful in this study and you're able to prove that the Light is 80%, then it's very good. Because cost effectively wise, to be better to use 1 single dose at 80% efficacy or thereabout, means that you could vaccinate more people at a cheaper rate. You can also be people who accept the vaccine even at just a single dose compared to 2 doses. So all these logistic, administration, cost, economics, science, combine everything together, the Light would end up being superior.
Does this have any implication on our access to the vaccine? We know that the Sputnik V, we're having challenges getting it from the Russian government because of vaccine nationalism, and perhaps because we didn't really contribute to the development of the vaccine. Does this have any implication on our access to the vaccine later?
When you contribute in developing a product, you have a better chance of being given the vaccine. Normally, the sponsor would either donate some of the vaccines to you, either for free or at a cheaper rate. Because if you are going to compete to procure the vaccine, you have not participated, they are likely to give the one that has participated. The population that participated in the study, they have a right to get the vaccine when it's proven to be good. So it's very good that we participated. There are a lot of evidence that some of the earlier childhood vaccines that we are currently using, because we participated. So that's it. So some countries got the vaccines early because they participated in the study. So that's how it is. They can either give you free, you have the chance of being given priority in terms of pitches, or it will be cost-wise, depending on how the contract is structured. If the contract is structured and say that instead of maybe $20, we'll give you $10 because you participate. These are all some of the things that will be factored into.
Well, Director of Public Health at the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Franklin Sirubekwe, says the country is stepping up surveillance at the airport to properly monitor and contain the Delta strain of the virus first seen in India.
What we have now is that people are positive. When you are positive, then we now do the genomic sequencing. Do you understand? So that is what has actually detected a few of the Delta virus. For now, we are not very sure whether we have it in the community. But I mean, if you have a very efficient virus like that Delta, then in that case, if it enters the community, you're going to have a surge in the numbers. For now, we don't have that surge, so we can't be very certain that it's in the community. But what we try to do is that we want to look at the second wave. At that time, we were not sure whether it was there's a UK strain, but there were 2 things that were very evident. You know, you had a very, I would say, a very naked population, naked in the sense that people are not conforming to the protocols. And then you introduce another efficient virus, you're going to have a surge. So that demonstrates that clearly something is happening. For now, we don't have the data to support that something is happening. So what we were doing was that for the past like 4 to 6 weeks ago, when we started having a reasonable number of cases from India and United Arab Emirates and Turkey, we were anticipating that could be a new variant. So what we were doing was that those that were negative at the point of test at the airport, we tried to follow them up to see whether they can become positive, and somehow none of them became positive. But now that there's evidence of it being detected, we're going to do likewise to follow up possible contacts. But let me say that, you see, that the test results is not real time. So what we do is that they do the test at the airport. It takes some weeks before the results will come. But that ultimately, either the case would have been discharged or things like that. So what we do is we try to look at possible areas that have more cases, and then we try to follow up their possible contacts. That's what we do. And one thing is that, so if you have such a threat, the issue is that you ask yourself, do you have a cellular system that can detect? So we have one at the airport, which is the antigen testing, and then the two is the health facilities, whereby people will report and they will be suspected. So that's what we have.
Well, joining us for some analysis on the phase 3 clinical trials is UK-based pharmacist and CDD Ghana fellow Dr. Kwame Sapong Esiedu. Thank you very much, Dr. Sapong Esiedu. Now, this must certainly make you a lot happy, because you've been advocating for a while now that Ghana positioning itself to take advantage or to participate in some of these clinical trials.
Yeah, I mean, it's a brilliant day. I wouldn't dispute that in any way, shape, or form. Anyone who has followed the last 3-4 weeks of the brouhaha around the Sputnik vaccines and the lack of vaccine supply to COVAX countries would realize that there's no point in being a bystander when it comes to vaccine availability. So for us to make this move, and for me, that there's not a backlash compared with what happened with Ebola, compared with what happened with the malaria vaccine, is a brilliant day, because it looked like now the penny is dropping, that we cannot be bystanders and buy finished products. And that should be a good thing.
All right. But are there any guarantees that the fact that we align this to happening, we're going to get vaccines?
Yeah, I mean, when you do things like this, no government, and I've been saying this since 2014, no government will go into a contractual obligation to put its citizenry at potentially harm's way, because at phase 3, even though a lot of things have been checked and safety has been checked, side effect profiles have been checked, there's still a risk. In fact, there is a risk even after emergency use authorization. That is why the word emergency use authorization is used, and adverse effects post-immunization have to be monitored. So if you are going to use your citizens as, quote unquote, the testing sample, then any country would put it into their contractual obligation that should this become successful, this is my pound of flesh. I mean, it's like what Sherlock the Jew said, you cannot take a pound of flesh without exerting blood. So I would be surprised if the Ghana government, and for that matter, those who went into this agreement, didn't factor this into consideration.
Now, the Russians have been criticized for the way they went about the production of the Sputnik V vaccine. They said there was not enough transparency. Would you say they're doing things a lot better now with the fact that we're having clinical trials here in Ghana and other countries?
Well, yes. I mean, you said there's no transparency, and that is your big beef. Now they've brought it into your country where you are doing the trials, you are collating the data, you are reporting the data. What more transparency can you ask for? So in a way, it is more like the Russians saying, well, there you go. You want transparency, you give us transparency back. And for me, that is the beauty of science.
Now, let's again look at the way they're going about it. How different is this vaccine and the way it is being produced from the Sputnik V?
Technically, it is the same vaccine. What happens with vaccines, and that's why the word emergency use authorization is bandied around, is that initially you do not have enough data. It seems to me that the Russians, based on large-scale use of this vaccine, you must bear in mind that currently close to 100 million doses of this vaccine have been given across the world. And it's been used for more than 7 months because Turkey and countries like the UAE started using it as far back as December. So they have enough data to measure what's called the antibody titers, which is how long the antibodies which protect you should you get infected last in your bloodstream. And are coming to a conclusion that it probably lasts long enough so that if the initial dose is adjusted properly, you don't need a second dose. And you need to bear in mind that this is what we call a vector-based vaccine, which is similar to the AstraZeneca vaccine and is similar to the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine is a single-dose vaccine. So from a theoretical standpoint, there is enough basis for them to try and gather evidence to see if one dose of this vaccine would be as effective as 2 doses. And so if you ask me the question, what do I think? I think I'll go with the science, and what they are doing is embedded in science.
All right. Now, finally, can we also use the fact that we are allowing this to happen in Ghana to get some Sputnik V vaccines, even before the Sputnik Light is produced?
Well, yes. I mean, it's like a meal in a household. Once you're at the table and you're eating, banter starts. And when banter starts, the dynamics of negotiations change. We all know that historically, a lot more deals have been made at the golf course than they've been made at the negotiation table. So for me, the minute you move the needle to the point where you can get to banter, it's like the sort of conversation you and I would have in the background where you are now having a conversation. It's not the same as the sort of conversation I have with you when we're having this interview. Yeah. But we will get a lot more understanding in the background that we would get on air because there's political correctness and all that. So the answer to your question is yes, it would move the needle, and a lot more things can happen in the background than has hitherto happened as at the start.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Kwame Sapong-Yesiedu. He's a pharmacist, a UK-based pharmacist, and a fellow of CDD Ghana. Moving on, angry residents of Ochimankwama in the Ashanti region have staged a demonstration Tuesday morning protesting delayed completion of roads started in 2017. They blocked the major link road, compelling motorists to seek alternative routes to their destination. The demonstrators are unhappy with the government for failing to complete roads under construction. Some commercial drivers abandoned their vehicles in the middle of the road to join the demonstrators. Nane Aljuma has more.
The demonstrators are unhappy with government for failing to progress with the road construction. Commercial drivers suffered the action. Some abandoned their vehicles in the middle of the road to join the demonstrators. This school bus, picking pupils on the stretch, had to end the journey. Residents of Achimate Chiman were first to join the demonstration. Before the election, they brought a lot of machinery to fix the road, but they didn't.
Vice President,
government officials are always avoiding this road. They should fix it for all of us to use. Nana Afriye Chechi III spoke on behalf of traditional leaders in Achuma. Business, education, and all sectors of the economy are suffering. No one is ready to invest in the area. We are pleading with government to help us. The roads here are bumpy and dusty following long abandonment by the contractor. Some bridges are left uncompleted, causing floods in some parts of the area. Here are some affected residents.
The
whole house floods when it rains. We plead with the president to call the contractor to site.
She says, before the bridge, the place didn't flood. Now, the whole area floods. In the heat of the 2020 electioneering, the chief of Fonse, Nana Frimpong Appiah Ampem II, made an appeal to President Akufo-Addo during a campaign tour to ensure contractors expedite action on the Atwima-Kwawoma road.
Occasionally, people bring machines to work on the road and later they disappear. Recently, they demolished some shops on the road but disappeared afterwards.
Here is the president's response after the roads minister, Kwesi Amoakwanta, assured contracts were awarded and will ensure works are done. We can't neglect you after all the support.
It's not while I am president of this country. It will never happen.
Roads Minister Kwesi Amoakwanta, in the presence of the president, Nana Akufo-Addo, assured works will be done. But the road is yet to see any improvement 6 months into the second term of the president. From Kumasi for Joy News, Nana Aljima reporting.
We're taking a break here on Joy News Prime, but still ahead, minority blames government for poorly managing dispute with independent power producer Ghana Power Generation Company, leading to the award of a $170 million judgment debt against Ghana.
Well, it simply tells us that the government didn't plan well. The government didn't take this matter serious. First of all, I hold the view that it was wrong to have terminated the agreement, the way and manner in which this government went about it.
The Attorney General, however, disagrees and says public officials who signed the agreement will be investigated for their conduct. And then in business, Bank of Ghana outlines plan to boost its gold reserves with purchases from the local market for the next 5 years.
This is one of the key reforms that we set to do for ourselves since about a year and a half ago. We were looking for a way to buy gold domestically and be able to convert it into a foreign asset. And the way we are able to do that is because we are paying in cedis. If we're not paying in cedis, then we might as well just buy the gold from anywhere else.
Hello there, good evening and welcome to Business here on Joy News Prime. My name is Gifty Andopia. Now, the Bank of Ghana says it is planning to buy a record amount of gold from the local market over the next 5 years. It is looking to buy about 17.4 metric tons during this period, a move that would ensure that the country has sustained reserves. The last time that the country increased its reserve was in 1962. Stephen Opata is head of financial markets at the Bank of Ghana.
One of the key reforms that we set to do for ourselves since about a year and a half ago, we were looking for a way to buy gold domestically and be able to convert it into a foreign asset. And the way we are able to do that is because we are paying in cedis. If we're not paying in cedis, then we might as well just buy the gold from anywhere else. So that's the key to this, that we have people who will sell us gold and we can pay in cedis. So then effectively we can use a domestic resource to build a foreign asset. So it's very significant. It's very significant, but of course this should be supported by other monetary policy indicators that we are looking at. Like, for example, we want to make sure that we are going to pay by cedis. So the quantum of cedis that you are using to buy this gold can go outside this. It can go into the system. So you have to mop it, right? So this cannot just be done in isolation. It has to be done with other policy measures that we are looking at. We haven't built up gold reserves for a long time. I think the report that we've been looking at, I think it's since 1962. We haven't added to our gold reserves. So this is significant.
Why that long?
I mean, well, you should be asking maybe some historians and so forth. But what I can tell you is that we have noted that maybe it's about time we did that, because if you can buy the gold in cedis, then it's easier for you to build your gold reserves that way. And then our strategy is that we are going to use those gold assets to leverage for other forms of financing when needed. So I am very, very optimistic about this program, because it means that we are able to do cheaper sources of foreign exchange financing. For now, we want to double our gold reserves in 5 years. So currently our gold reserves is 8.77 tons. In 5 years, we want it to be 17.4 tons. So that's quite significant.
Stephen Opata there of the Bank of Ghana. Now, some commercial banks are raising concerns about the Bank of Ghana's directive to put an end to over-the-counter withdrawal charge. The central bank recently issued a notice to banks and specialized deposit-taking institutions to abolish what it calls unfair fees, charges and other practices in the banking sector. But in an interview with Joy Business at a digital conference organized by his outfit, the managing director of the Republic Bank Ghana, Farid Antar, said the over-the-counter withdrawal charge was meant to serve as disincentive for customers to use the ATMs. Bismarck Osa has more.
Over-the-counter withdrawal fee is one of 7 charges the central bank has warned commercial banks to do away with. The Bank of Ghana noted that some banks and specialized deposit-taking institutions impose penal charges on customers who withdraw their own funds from banking halls. A reason managing director of Republic Bank attributed to the practice was to encourage customers to use digital platforms provided to reduce congestion at the banking halls.
You charge a fee for customers coming into the branch to withdraw cash, where they have an avenue external to the bank. So it's not so much a fee to collect income, but it's a disincentive fee to change the behavior to use electronic, which is the ultimate goal. But in understanding that a lot of the customers who are caught in that are at the lower end of the market, it may seem a bit disadvantageous to them. So we will adjust, but the goal of changing the behavior and moving people to digital and electronic channels will remain. We just have to do it in a different form.
The digital conference jointly organized by the bank and the Business and Financial Times was themed Digitization, Artificial Intelligence and the Future of Things, the Impact and Immense Opportunities for Ghanaian Businesses. Mr. Anta has underscored the need for Ghanaian businesses to take advantage of the opportunities provided by the African Continental Free Trade Area through the adoption of technology to expand their operations. According to him, local businesses must begin to look beyond the country and network with other countries across the continent to reach a larger market.
We need to look at the opportunities that as I say, the fourth industrial revolution is creating for the world. In the introduction, the MC indicated or mentioned some statistics of possibly 85 million jobs being lost to AI. What I would say, though, is that it should not be a cause for panic. And that what we have seen over the generation is that you have to now retool and prepare yourselves for what the opportunities in new world or the new norm will bring for us.
The conference offered insight into how stakeholders, particularly business owners and their financiers, could harness the recent gains from increased digitization and digitalization.
And that's it for Business this hour. I'm back after 8 with more. I am Gifty Ando Apia, and up next is sports.
Hello, welcome to Sports on Joy News Prime with me, Muftau Nabila Ablai. Ahead of their Week 30 Ghana Premier League fixture against House of Oak on Thursday, Legon City's head coach Bashiru Hayford is optimistic the Royals will avoid demotion. There's more in this report.
Legon City. Legon Cities had a terrible start to the Premier League campaign, which led to the sacking of their head coach, Bojan Baraktarevic. Bashiru Hayford, who has since taken over the ship, has steered it to a point where it appears they could maintain their status as a Premier League club come the end of the season. Mr. Hayford believes the current position of the club, with 6 matches to end the Premier League season, shows that they will not be relegated at the end of the season.
When if you are a driver, you are given a faulty car to drive home so that they could see what is wrong with the car. You don't speed up. You have to slow down because the car is already faulty. And so if you are bringing the car to the mechanic or this, you have to slow it down and this. And so that is why the distance has been very slow, because there's no need for you to push through, because one, the problems have identified. Will not let you push them so much, but you take your time and listen. Now where we are lying now, well, reaffirms that we will stay, if God willing. And when we stay, it is where that I'm going to make sure the preseason is a preseason.
Legon Cities will face House of Oak on March day 30 of the Premier League season. Head coach of the Phobia Club, Samuel Bodu, believes picking maximum points is the most important thing in this fixture.
Yeah, I will be expecting them to play good football, and I don't know, they carry the 3 maximum points. That's the most important thing.
House of Oak is gunning to win the Premier League title for the first time in about 12 years.
Now let's do some athletics, and all eyes will be on the women's 100 meters at Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games. American Sha'Carri Richardson, Jamaica's Shirley Ann Fraser-Price, and Nigeria's Blessing Okabari are the frontliners for the crown. Hans Mensah-Ando has more in this report. These athletes who are representing their various countries when the Tokyo Olympic Games starts in the next 31 days. Just earlier today, they announced that they will allow spectators to grace the events. However, these spectators will not be permitted to celebrate when the events start. I am Muftau Nabila Abdullahi, and this has been Sports on Joy News Prime. Head on to myjoyonline.com and read some more sports stories.
Time for showbiz. Becky Bex is here. Hello, Becky.
Hello to you, Easy. How you doing?
I am well. How about you?
I'm fine, thank you. Omar Sterling, he is one of the. So he's part of R2Bs.
Yeah.
So there are two, Mugi's and Omar Sterling.
Apparently, he's been trending on Twitter.
Exactly, because he's released a 20-track album.
That's
20-track album
actually.
Called Same Earth, Different Worlds, and he featured Kwesiata on the album. Manifest is also part of the album. Obviously, Mugi's is part of the album, and also Ifia. So a lot of people, the reason why, he's been trending is because, they don't, come out, they're not, media friendly, they're not always out in your face promoting their stuff. So I remembered 3 years ago, I had a conversation with, the R2Bs, and they told me why they're not always in our faces.
I mean, it's just our everyday lifestyle. We don't follow the hype. If there's no materials out there, we keep it hush. If we have works out there, we step out, we come out in the open and promote. So basically, that's just the R2B's culture, Plus, music business is about the music. If there's no music.
That was 3 years ago, right in front of
Joy
FM, when I had that conversation with them. Let's move away from R2Bs. Let's talk about Afrobeats music. So Afrobeats music apparently has a spot in the VGMAs this year, thanks to Kelvin Boy. That's according to Kelvin Boy.
Okay.
Are you surprised?
Well, yeah. Is it?
I was, because so he spoke to KMJ.
Yes, it's great if it's in there.
Yeah, but
is it really because of him?
Well, he said it's because of him.
The Afrobeat Artist of the Year. Why are you laughing though? No, and you represent that so well, so of course. And then the Afrobeat Song of the Year. So, yeah, and everyone knows that I started campaigning for that category before they put it in. So I won't say it was because...
That's a legacy. Would you say that's a legacy?
I won't say it was because of me, but I have to say now because our children are watching. You understand? And that's the fact. Yeah, man. So big up Ghana music same way. Afrobeat Artist of the Year, Afrobeat Song of the Year. That's my nominations, and keep voting for me. Please vote for me. Yeah, Afrobeat.
Are you confident you're picking them up?
To some extent, I agree with him.
To believe
because at a point when he started, it was everything Afrobeats here, and he actually had a song called Afrobeats and yeah. So to some extent, he campaigned. Yeah, okay. he campaigned for that, and Dinah Hamilton should win the Artist of the Year. I'm just saying. But,
so biased.
No, I'm just saying, because I mean, if you look at the list, this year's VGMAs should be Dinah Hamilton.
Are you trying to campaign for?
I'm not campaigning. I mean, the facts are bare. Don't sweep anything under the carpet. All right, so Yaw Sarpong. I mean, we can't stop talking about Yaw Sarpong. Yaw Sarpong is legendary musician.
Yeah.
He is legendary. Okay. And so, you know, during my conversation with him on eVibes, he's been comparing the music back in the day and now. Yeah.
At first, to get somebody to record you on just a single track is not easy. And because there's no studios around, we have only one studio in Accra, one studio in Kumasi. I think that's all. So if you want to record, it's a very, very, very huge problem. But now, a lot of studios in houses. A lot of studios, plenty studios. So it's not like the first. I think that's one of the problems that I reckon.
Legendary Yaw Sarpong right there. eVibes still shows on Joy News on your multi-TV channel every Saturday, 8:30 a.m. before News File. Then on Joy Prime every Sunday, 6 p.m. Please stay with eVibes.
Thank you very much, Becky, with eVibes. Let's get on to my Joy Online and see some of the stories that are trending there on the website. We have... McPalm was the main brain behind, Dr. McPalm was the main brain behind the plot to overthrow government, military chief alleges. And there you have the other stories on my Joy Online. Get onto the website and get to read more of the stories we have there. COVID-19 deadly Indian strain detected in Ghana. Sputnik V, AstraZeneca vaccines are not effective against it. London court throws out AG others for sleeping on $170 million case. We have details of that story coming up later on in the bulletin. There's more news on the Joy News channel. Stay tuned in. Parliament has approved by consensus the nomination of Gifty Chumampofo as Deputy Education Minister after the minority withdrew its objection to her appointment. The House also approved 11 other deputy ministers, including Marco Krekumante as the Deputy Tourism and Creative Arts Minister. The minority had objected to the approval of Madam Ampofo over her alleged defense of vote buying. We have on Zoom our parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku-Gakpo for more. So what is it that got the minority to now approve Gifty Chum?
Israel, let me tell you how we know. We gather that sometime today, Madam Ampofo Chum, in the company of some leading NPP officials here in Parliament, specifically the majority side, did walk into a conversation at the level of the minority MPs to actually explain herself to them and encourage them to forgive her over her stance over this specific allegation having to do with corruption. You recall that the specific incident had to do with a case in which she allegedly gave out 1,500 CDs plus flat screen televisions to some delegates in the NPP primaries. And when she appeared before the Appointments Committee of Parliament, she defended that position and allegedly subsequently engaged in some verbal exchanges with one of the MPs on the minority side, specifically Hassan Suhini. So we gather that she'd actually been in a conversation with the minority MPs and solicited their support and kind of pleaded with them to support her candidature for the position. And following that, the minority MPs decided that they were going to back her approval, and the reports of the appointment committee was amended to say that they are supporting her nomination by consensus, and eventually that was approved on the floor of Parliament around 6:30 p.m. this evening.
Right, and so we're also learning that the rest of them, all the other deputy ministers who were vetted, have also been approved.
So all of them except 4 of them. So you would recall that there was the approval that was given for about 12 of them sometime last week. Another batch of 12 was approved, out of which a list of 3 was actually set aside because then the minority MPs had other concerns. And so today as well, another batch have been approved. And so in total, we have about 36 of them, with 35 of them being deputy ministers and 1 of them being a minister of state being approved. But approval has still been withheld for 4 of them. Let me run you through the list of that 4 and tell you the reason in a while. And the 4 actually include the Deputy Attorney General Designate, Madam Asunaba Dapa Dina, as well as Lariba Zuera Abdul, the Deputy Minister Designate for Gender, Children and Social Protection, Martin Ejemen Sakosa, who is the Deputy Minister Designate for Local Government and Rural Development, and then Amidu Ishiaku Tiana, who is Deputy Minister Designate for Sanitation and Water Resources. And the concern of the minority MPs are that they were not present when they were vetted because they were planting trees in their constituencies. There's been the hint that the minority would want to push this to the brink and insist that they would want to see a revetting of those 4 before the possible approval. But the report in question has been laid in Parliament for approval today. We're waiting for a debate on it tomorrow. We wait to hear what the minority MPs would say when the time comes for the approval to be done. As to whether they would insist on that, a revetting, or one way or the other, some consensus may be reached in order to allow for the approval.
But has it ever happened before, a revetting?
No, none that I can readily recall. What we've seen unfold has to do with a situation where in the recent vetting, for example, the Deputy Minister Designate for the Foreign Affairs Ministry, after the vetting had ended, a lot of the minority MPs walked in and insisted that there wasn't quorum and they were not present. And so after he had been discharged by the committee, minutes later, he was called back and the vetting process, the earlier one lasted for like 17 minutes, the subsequent one lasted for like an hour. That's the closest to a revetting that we've seen. But this may probably be the first of it that we'll see, particularly with these deputy ministers.
Yeah, that's as if it happens.
That's if it happens. And we'll know more tomorrow because, interesting enough, the committee report makes the point that the approval for these individuals is actually being done again by consensus. And again, it goes back to the point that the committee would usually vote after they have vetted the individuals on the same day, and a lot of the minority MPs were not present then. But we understand a lot of engagements are ongoing at the leadership level on how it happened to these for tomorrow, when eventually the House has to take that particular report.
All right, thank you very much, Parliamentary Correspondent Joseph Opoku-Gakpo. We're saying in Parliament where the ranking member on the Energy Committee, John Jinapo, is accusing government of causing financial loss to the state in the Ghana Power Generation Company judgment debt saga. He says the company, which was awarded $170 million judgment debt in the London court, initially agreed to take $20 million, but government declined the offer. He questions why government allowed the amount to balloon to $170 million. He says government is a set of missed deadlines to challenge the award, and the court rejected its latest plea to extend the deadline. Mr. Jinapo says government must be blamed for mismanaging the dispute.
It simply tells us that the government didn't plan well. The government didn't take this matter serious. First of all, I hold the view that it was wrong to have terminated the agreement, the way and manner in which this government went about it. Clearly, we could save more than $150 million if this government had listened to good counsel. But the minister decided that he would cancel it unilaterally. And today, the state of Ghana has had to pay about $170 million. That's a whopping amount, and it's a colossal amount. Also, we had the opportunity to file an appeal in London. And based on the ruling, it's obvious that the government of Ghana delayed, slept on the job, and didn't do what it ought to have done. And so clearly, from all intents and purposes, it would appear that we would have to pay this amount. And we must learn some lessons from it. We can't just throw the taxpayers' monies away when we could have used this money for some very, very equally important assignments.
But government was changing hands to a certain extent from the
previous Akufo administration to the new one, the excuses being given. A new Attorney General had to come in. There were COVID-19 developments that made it impossible for them to meet the deadlines to the filing of the appeal. Do you think those explanations are tenable?
Yeah, but the court clearly says that they are not tenable. The court insisted that Ghana is Ghana, and it's a sovereign nation. It's like a company. If a company is running, it must run in perpetuity. You cannot say that because you are changing management, it got you not to do that. Bear in mind that if you read the story, we earlier on applied for some extension, which was granted, but we failed to act within that extension. What made us to ask for that extension? And why did we fail as a nation to meet that extension?
You think government didn't handle this properly?
Clearly, government didn't handle it properly. The ruling clearly says that government didn't handle it properly. I hold a view that ab initio, right from the initial engagement leading to the termination, and at this point, it has not been the best. And I think that as a nation, we must learn from that and do what is right and proper. Also, there should be proper guidelines and proper ways of terminating contracts. No minister should just get up on his own accord, decide that he wants to terminate contracts. And that when you are terminating such contracts, you must come back to Parliament and brief Parliament. It's something that I think Parliament should take up seriously. That you come to Parliament, we grant you approval, we commit the state, you sign the contract, and when you want to terminate that contract, it's only proper that the people's representatives are at least informed prior to the termination of that contract. The thing was to have negotiated with the company. And the company was willing to negotiate and to accept a lower amount of around less than $20 million. So if you want to save money, you had an option to save over $150 million, and yet you decided that you would terminate. It is the termination that is leading to all these judgment debts. Okay. The original contract wouldn't have led to all these huge sums. And so if you do a cost-benefit analysis, clearly negotiating with them would have saved us so much money.
Where is this information coming from that it could have cost us $20 million if we had negotiated? I'm just curious.
It is in the arbitration document. Go and read the arbitration document.
Well, Attorney General Godfrey Dames, however, disagrees the government mismanaged the dispute.
On account of all of this, I put my documents together. I'm going to write a formal complaint requesting an inquiry by the CID into the conduct of the public officers who acted in a manner which resulted in the execution of an agreement which resulted in financial loss to the state.
Sorry, we have to explain that. You are going to ask the CID to probe the decision to enter into the agreement with this company or the decision to terminate?
The decision, first and foremost, I'm saying that the committee set up by the NDC in September 2016 against the background of a recognition that there were so many PPAs that had been entered into by the NDC administration, and therefore those going to result in, and therefore those agreements were going to result in excessive capacity development, as it was termed, came to a conclusion that these agreements had to be terminated. And I'm saying that in light of that, a question must be asked as to the wisdom of the NDC administration in 2015, 2016, on account of a supposed lack of power to enter into multiple PPA agreements, which were unnecessary and which resulted in unneeded and excessive capacity development. And I'm saying that that committee singled out this particular agreement for termination. And the then Attorney General, acting on the strength, well, the Attorney General is not a technical person in energy matters. The Attorney General relies on reports of various committees set up by public institutions who have been vested with the capacity to review certain transactions peculiar to the area in which they operate. So the former Attorney General, in reliance on this report of the PPA committee, also advised termination. That termination, of course, was subsequently held to be wrong by the Landing Court of International Arbitration. But the basic point is that the entry into this transaction was unnecessary. The entry into this transaction was what resulted in financial loss to the state. But the termination was effected by the then Minister for Energy on the strength of the advice given by the former Attorney General, Madame Gloria Akufo, in 2018. And Madame Gloria Akufo also acted on the basis of the report of a committee set up by the SOR Minister for Power in September 2016. And that is what I call the PPA committee.
Fair to say then that your government agreed with the NDC position?
Precisely. The government stuck with the report of the PPA committee set up by the NDC itself in 2016, recommending a termination of the agreement, because that agreement, if it had been allowed to run, was going to result in excessive power. And I'm saying that excessive power was not only in relation to that agreement, but many other agreements cumulatively was going to result in a loss of about over $7 billion between 2018 and 2013. And then an amount of $586 million each year was also going to be lost. So I think the issue is not as simple as the NDC people would like to make it sound.
Well, minority in Parliament is disputing claims by Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta that the MPP government has paid $937 million in excess capacity energy charges to independent power producers over the last 4 years. Of the amount, Mr. Ofori-Atta told legislators on Thursday that $347.2 million was paid to AXA Energy, $359 million to Car Powership, and $231.3 million to Send Power between 2017 and 2020. But Minority MP Al-Hassan Sunyini, who filed the question, says the figures cannot be accurate. He has subsequently filed an urgent question summoning the Energy Minister over the issue.
I have filed an urgent question today to the Minister of Energy to provide us with the quantity of kilowatts per hour that, Ghana did not utilize from the 3 companies that the Finance Minister listed, for which Ghana government was billed and has since paid $937 million for. I have requested the Minister of Energy to provide us with that information. It is important that we establish if we are actually paying for excess capacity or not. Information I have, which I do not doubt, is that these companies that were listed have actually received payments from Government of Ghana for power generated and utilized. And so it is strange.
As in the $937 million.
As in the $937 million. Yes, $1 million. So it is strange for me that the Finance Minister puts the whole sum as being, amount expended for power that we did not utilize.
So you are disputing the figure? Do you get the sense it's probably far less or probably more than the $937 million?
What is important for now is for perhaps government to tell us why over the years they have always created the impression that they are paying $500 million every year for excess capacity charges, only for them to reveal in Parliament that in the last 4 years they have paid less than $1 billion.
Okay. Ghanaians would also be interested in how much genuinely we are spending on that, which is why I'm probing that bit. Yeah. Do you get the sense it's probably more or less than the $937 million with the information you're getting that the 937 is probably the figure that was paid to them for power that was generated?
The sense I am getting is that government is not paying anything for excess capacity charges. And it is high time they told us the truth. Because how can you be in one breath complaining about excess capacity and in another breath signing on new contracts, generation contracts? You are signing on new companies that are supposed to, invest in generation capacity. You complained about excess gas. Yes, you are signing on new gas contracts. You complained about excess energy, yet you are giving companies the go-ahead to produce, more power. So I am saying my information is that they simply may have not been paying for any excess capacity charges. But you see, the issue with allowing this to fester is that it creates an opportunity for books to be cooked. So we must establish if indeed government has been paying and how much they have been paying and which companies they have been paying to.
So that people would engage in underhand dealings and benefit from the payment?
Probably. It is possible. If you do not challenge these things, if they go unchallenged, people can take advantage of the fact that you have accepted that this figure is what is, allocated to a non-existent, charge. And who knows where it will end up? Maybe offshore banks.
Health Minister Kukwajima Menu says he has commissioned a special investigation into circumstances under which an ambulance was used to cart cement. He says he's still awaiting the report of the committee so he can take action to safeguard the ambulances. Responding to questions on the floor of Parliament, he insisted the ambulance was not yet in the services domain, which is why they could not track it.
That the ambulance service has issued a statement on that incident. The monitors and the type of mechanism we have couldn't detect it because that particular ambulance was not in operation. It had been parked in the mechanics workshop for service. And then the mechanics person, a driver in the workshop, took the ambulance without the authority of the service. So when the issue came up, the ambulance service issued a statement on this matter, and this was adequately published in the media. I have asked for further investigations, and I'm still waiting for a report on that, Mr. Speaker.
He disclosed a number of measures are being rolled out to protect ambulances, including the setting up of a central monitoring center.
To achieve effective monitoring of the ambulances, the service has acquired additional monitoring screens, which are being fixed in all the 16 dispatch centers in the 16 regions, so that each region can effectively monitor the ambulances within their jurisdiction. That's because these mechanisms are to ensure that the movement of all the ambulances are always monitored to ensure their effective use. Thank you.
The West African Examinations Council is challenging a report authored by Africa Education Watch that said 2020 WASSCE questions were leaked to students. The report also faulted WAEC for the leakage of personal contact details of examiners. At a news conference Tuesday, WAEC said the think tank exposed its ignorance on how it conducts its affairs and threatened legal action. Kwekwe Sante has more in the following report.
Days before the 2020 WASSCE started, the contact details of examiners were flying on social media. WAEC swiftly reported the incident to the police and announced an internal inquiry after the public expressed outrage and concern. But more than a year after, an education think tank, Africa Education Watch, has faulted WAEC for its handling of the matter, alleging the leak came from within WAEC. At a news conference, WAEC hit back, insisting although the leak was unfortunate, it did not affect the marking of scripts.
The Council, in its press release of August 19, 2020, acknowledged the unfortunate circulation of a yet-to-be finalized version of an examiner's list for the WASSCE School 2020 on social media. The said circulated list, unfortunate as it was, did not include the critical information regarding which scripts the examiners would be marking, etc. The Council indicated then that it had initiated investigations into the development and assured the public that steps incorporated in the marking exercises over the years ensured fairness. These steps, which were and have always been rigorously adhered to, are: 1. Swapping of scripts across regions. Scripts were swapped to ensure that scripts originating from a particular region and those from nearby or contiguous regions were not marked in that region. So if you attended a school in the Greater Accra region, your script is not marked here in Accra, neither is it marked at a region close to Accra. So that is the essence of swapping of scripts. And even when we swap the scripts, we don't do it wholesale such that we know that every script of a candidate in Greater Accra is being marked in a particular region. We distribute some of the scripts to one region and another to another region to ensure that nobody can tell where the scripts are being marked. Then 2, exclusion of school names on script envelopes and mark sheets. This made it impossible for examiners to know at face value the school that the scripts they marked belong to. So on our script envelopes, we don't have any place for school names, so that any examiner who has a packet of scripts cannot tell which school scripts he or she is marking.
Addressing the issue on whether questions were leaked to students as alleged by the Africa Education Watch in its 2020 WASI report, WAEC says no questions were leaked to the students.
Why would African Education Watch refuse to disclose the identity of informants? During last year's WASI, there were no actual questions that were leaked.
They insist the questions that flooded social media pages just hours before the start of the examination were fake. The council is threatening it may be forced to take legal action against Africa Education Watch.
To say that all options are on the table as far as how we are going to respond to Africa Education Watch going forward is concerned. So yes, all options are on the table, so all things are possible, including a legal suit. So these are things that management has to reflect on and then strategize regarding such a step. So don't be surprised if there is such a thing that comes up. But I can't tell you now, here and now, that tomorrow or the next day. So it's an option, I must say.
Well, Executive Director of Africa Education Watch, Kofi Asare, says the West African Examinations Council was pre-informed about the WASI 2020 research report before it was released. He said the report was not targeted at WAEC, but was conducted for the benefit of government and the country at large. He was speaking with host of the Pulse, Gift Andapia.
WAEC has the right to respond to our report, and I respect their rights. We shared a copy of the report with WAEC on the 11th of June, 2021. And we asked WAEC for their inputs into the reports 5 days before the launch. WAEC responded on that very day with a letter I'm holding here and raised three concerns. Their first concern was that they would have wished that we would have contacted them much earlier. The second concern was that they wanted us to change the name of the report from WAEC reports from WAEC reports because it wasn't WAEC's report, which we are obliged and did change the name into WASI 2020 reports, an independent assessment by Education Watch. So the concerns WAEC raised about the document we sent them on the 11th were addressed and incorporated into the report. That is why I'm surprised that after launching the report, WAEC is now coming to say that they did not have an opportunity to make an input into the report. They had 5 days to make an input into the report, and the letter here confirms that, yes, they had 5 days, and then they actually acknowledged the receipt of the report. Apart from that, I would like to indicate that the focus of the report is to support the Ministry of Education to initiate reforms around the assessment sector, which has been bedeviled by corruption, leakage in examination questions, leakage in examination market contacts, and what WAEC itself calls in its 2013 registrar's report, examination fraud. As far back as 2013, WAEC said that the level of examination fraud has gone beyond they themselves. In their own WAEC registrar's report of 2013, cited in our report on page 7. And so we are addressing an issue that has been there for over 2 decades. And we are happy we have the political will of this administration to tackle this issue head on, not just be ensuring that students don't go to examination hall with phones or ensuring that students use calculators that are not programmable, but also plugging the loopholes from the source where the questions leak. Because all along, WAEC's administrative efforts have been targeted at students at the supply side. So at the demand side. But the supply side, where questions leak, is where our focus was. So we are committed and we are focused in working with the Ministry of Education, providing them with all the evidence they need to understand the dynamics of the root causes of the leakage of questions in the examination or assessment sector. And not necessarily WAEC. WAEC is not our target. We didn't do the report for WAEC. It is meant for government.
And its bid to reduce financial losses, the Ghana Water Company Limited has commissioned what it says is an ultra-modern meter to help it monitor non-revenue water and ensure efficient use of the utility by its customers. This new technology will help the company track flow of water and improve its distribution. There's more in this report.
The new system will check water quality at production sites and within the distribution network. According to the Ghana Water Company Limited, it will also aid in effective supervision and transfer of data from the various points within the distribution system to the central office. 21 sensors have been installed in the Accra and Tema regions of the company to ensure effective implementation of the system.
It's made up of about 3 components. First is the field devices. Now, these field devices are what is communicating to the server in the middle here via internet. So you can see there's data transmission. So what it's collecting is that it's collecting flow. That is a volume that has passed through the pipelines within a period, and then it's collecting pressure. Now, pressure gives us an indication of how strong the movement of water is in the pipeline. And it comes to this server, and from the server, and that is the control room, that is what we are commissioning today. From the server, then we can now get our external users to access it. So as I stand here, all I need is my mobile device, and I'm able to now go onto the portal, and I'm able to see how much water is flowing through specific places within the city of Accra.
Managing Director of the Ghana Water Company Limited, Dr. Clifford Bremer, explained the rationale behind the introduction of this new supervisory and data collection system.
We want to be efficient. We want to get efficient service to our customers. We need to know how much water has gotten into Accra. We want to be sure that the meters that are put in your homes are really reading the actual volumes of water you have consumed. Instead of customers coming to tell us, you have overbilled me, you have done this, you've done that, we want our meters to be able to talk for us. So that if the meter reads 1, and you come and tell me you consume 0.5 because you are just 2 people, I can tell you my meter says that is not correct. And so we encourage customers who think they are overbilled or with the estimate to come forward and take a meter.
While encouraging Ghanaians to clean and disinfect their water reservoirs regularly, Dr. Bremer hinted that persons who engage in illegal connections would be prosecuted when found culpable.
Illegal connection is not only a drain on Ghana Water Company, it is also not allowing other customers to get water. Because before we develop any treatment plants, the population and the consumption of the individuals are captured. In Accra, we expect each and every one to do an average of 100 liters per person per day. And so if somebody is taking, say, 300, what it means is that instead of consuming his water, he's consuming for other 2 people. It's just like you stealing. If you are stealing anything, there's a crime. It's a crime you are committing. And so if you take water that does not belong to you, it's stealing. So the laws still apply. You are a water thief.
The commission of the new system took place at the Accra East Regional Office of the Ghana Water Company Limited. Christian Yali, reporting for Joy News.
We have more business coming up after this break. Stay tuned in.
Again, some more business news here with me, Gifty Andopia. The Cosmos Innovation Center program, funded by Cosmos Energy, has spent about $6 million as investment into its Agritech Challenge to support agribusinesses. This, according to the director, Benjamin Jan Kessie, was for the duration of the program in the last 5 years. He was speaking to journalists after the company unveiled an advanced version of the challenge known as the Agritech Challenge Pro. Here is a report.
The Cosmos Innovation Program is an initiative by Cosmos Energy to support the country's agricultural sector against food security challenges. Director for Cosmos Innovation Center, Benjamin John Kesey, has disclosed that more than 600 young people have benefited through training, mentorship, and business incubation. He believes that the next season, which is the Agritech Challenge Pro, is expected to bring more SMEs on board. According to him, since the inception of the program in 2016, Cosmos has spent about $6 million to transform small, medium enterprises in the agribusiness space.
Beyond 100,000, the two companies that comes into the incubator, they have a mentor who is assigned to them that we call the portfolio manager, who also brings in other experts. They also have free internet, free sitting space, hot lunch every day for 1 to 4 years. Mostly we do not mention that. So in total, over the past 5 years, we have invested well over $6 million in the program, because going around the country recruiting over 120 young entrepreneurs, the other experts that we bring, and the in-house experts, everything together, we have gone a little over $6 million over the past 5 years plus.
Mr. John Kesey also explains the uniqueness of the new challenge, which is the Agritech Pro.
Now, the Agritech Challenge Pro is slightly different from the original Agritech Challenge, because now we are soliciting for teams with ideas, not individuals with ideas. So you must already have a team being between 3 months to 24 months at maximum. And then you must have an idea that you're already working on and you're looking to go to market. And so those are the group of people that we're looking for. The regular qualification as must be graduate is still there, it's still in force, so you must be graduate, you must be between 20 to maximum 35 years. So those ones are still there.
The KIC programs have invested in young entrepreneurs with ideas on supporting the country's economy through agribusiness and technology.
Now, the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation says it will continue to share needed data with the Ghana Maritime Authority as a means of securing a sustainable maritime space. Speaking at the 100th celebration of World Hydrography Day, the Deputy Director General, Dr. Opoku Dankwa, noted that their contribution is expected to also go a long way in assisting the authority to both secure and sustain a well-developed maritime space as a means of curtailing unwanted maritime traffic, which impedes effective maritime trade.
Government's energy policy goal is to sustainably develop and manage Ghana's oil and gas resources in a transparent and environmentally responsible manner for the benefit of every Ghanaian now and in the future. GNPC and our partners have most of our activities within the exclusive economic zone, marine environment, with 3 producing fields and an additional 1 which is up and coming. Development all offshore, the role of the marine environment, and for that matter, hydrography in the Ghanaian economy cannot be overemphasized. We recognize the need to have a secure and sustainable, well-developed maritime space in which our assets such as FPSOs, pipelines, wells are all well mapped out and secure from unwanted marine traffic and other activities. GNPC believes in the work and activities of the National Hydrographic and Oceanographic Committee, hence contributes to it by providing marine and engineering expertise. GNPC, we do this by sharing derived bathymetry data with the working committee.
Well, let's now bring you a summary of business news across the globe.
I'll be all for business tonight. I am Gifty and Dopia. We're back tomorrow with more. For now, Muftau Nabila has more in sports, and Israel I will continue. Have a good night.
Welcome once again to the second part of Sports on Journeys Prime with me, Muftau Nabila Ablai. This weekend, the biggest game in the calendar of Ghana football is happening, where Accra House of Oak will be hosting Kumasi Asante Kotoko. The Ghana Football Association have announced that tickets will not be sold at the stadium. They say they will put tickets out for sale from June 25 to June 26, as they want to ensure that supporters do not crowd the Accra Sports Stadium to seek for tickets for the fixture. There's more in this report by my colleague Asari Bidiako.
Tickets will not be sold at the stadium gates on Sunday, and only persons with tickets will be granted access to go near the stadium by the security personnel to be stationed at the roads leading to the stadium. There will be a joint military and police teams to be deployed at vantage roads leading to the Accra Sports Stadium. The decision is to avoid overcrowding and mass gathering at the stadium entrance hours leading to the matchday 31 Ghana Premier League game. The Ghana Football Association is liaising with all stakeholders, especially the management of the home club Accra Hearts of Oak, to make the tickets available at vantage points on Friday and Saturday. Only 25% of admission of spectators will be given access to the stadium as per the permission granted to the Ghana Football Association by the government to play football in the country. The Super Clash will be played under strict COVID-19 protocols as required by the National COVID-19 Task Force and the GFA Matchday COVID-19 protocols.
And the Chief Executive Officer of Asante Kotoko, Nanayo Amponsa, claims the Porcupines have no issues with the Ghana Football Association, despite a public altercation between the two institutions. According to him, the football governing body is not their competitor for them to have any issues. He, however, alleged that the current state of football is too political. The Ghana Football Association and Asante Kotoko have engaged in public spat over the last couple of months. This has led to a perception created within the Ghanaian media and the football community that the football governing body and the Porcupine Warriors have got some issues. Chief Executive Officer of Asante Kotoko, Nanayo Amponsa, dispelled those rumors, insisting they are not competitors with the Ghana Football Association.
Kotoko should not have any issues with GFA because we are not in competition with the GFA. I state here now that we are not in competition with the GFA. The GFA is a regulator, and we are a club that should be regulated by the GFA, just like any other club. There should be no competition at all, and therefore we feel where we are not happy with maybe some decisions of the GFA, for instance the video camera incident where GFA tried to stop us from using video, just a different camera. That is a photo will be used to Samsung photo, no be used to iPhone. Now can say iPhone the media one used for every photo. That's where we had a challenge, and I think there was some exchange of letters. Some found its way into the media, but that was resolved amicably. There are no many issues here. If Kotoko is functioning well, Kotoko is doing well, then the GFA is doing well because we are one of the members. Until Kotoko's success should be the success of the GFA.
Many have alleged that Nanayo Amponsa harbors the intent of contesting for the position of president of the Ghana Football Association come 2023. Mr. Amponsa says the politics surrounding the football in the country is currently at its apex, which is alien to the game of football.
There could be situations where you say because Nanayo Amponsa contested for FA elections, and so some people believe that our ambition have been, listen. Growing up and seeing Ghana football, it was not such political. And I wish it remains like that. The football fraternity brings us together. Football binds this nation together. Even when politics divides us, it's football that brings us together. When Ghana qualifies for World Cup, or if anything good happens with our football, it brings us together. So I will entreat all involved, say, my football is just so polarized, so political. It makes it not to be interesting.
Kotoko's issues with the Ghana FA started in November last year when the Porcupines wanted to use a video camera to record their matches, a move which was rejected by the Ghana FA. The record Premier League champions wrote to the FA insisting if they are not permitted to use their video camera, then they will have to request for their right to see the contract agreed between the GFA and broadcast rights holders of the Premier League, Star Times. A consultative meeting was held to iron out the differences that existed between the two parties. In the Euros at the moment, the Three Lions of England currently leads Czech Republic by 1-0. Should they stay that way, at this point, England would qualify to the knockout stage. And I've been told that it is full-time, and that means that England have qualified to the round of 16 of the competition. Czech Republic will also qualify, and Croatia will also qualify by virtue of being one of the countries finishing as the third best placed teams in the Euros. Tomorrow we'll be coming your way with a game involving Portugal and France. That game will be live on Joy Prime. Stephen Appiah and Laia Kingston will be in studio, as well as Michael Porter. They will join Nathaniel Arthur as we start our pre-match build-up at 6 p.m. I am Muftar Nabla, and it's been a pleasure coming your way with sports on Joy News Prime. Head on to myjoyonline.com and read some more sports stories.
Now, persons seeking healthcare will no longer have to struggle to get the needed drugs at an easy and affordable prices, because the Christian Health Association of Ghana has established a platform which will ensure medicines for every illness is available to patients in the country. Executive Director of the Association, Dr. Maxwell Entry, said this at the launch of the platform, which is expected to, among others, check the quality of medicines produced or brought into the country. He believes this will help correct Ghana's ranking as the 6th country in the world to produce fake or substandard medicines. And Odame has more in this report.
Ghana's medicine market is fraught with challenges which affect effective healthcare delivery. The fragmented value chain, delays in payment to suppliers, and lack of proper quality control through post-market surveillance all lead to frequent stockouts and high prices of these medicines. The Christian Health Association of Ghana is set to change this practice with the Med for All platform.
Is intended to remove the financing barrier in the procurement, distribution, prescription, and dispensing of medicines to our clients, especially in the hinterlands, in the unreached segments of the society and underserved populations.
CHAG believes treatment failures due to fake and substandard medicines will soon be curtailed in Ghana. Executive Director of CHAG, Dr. Maxwell Entry.
The data on fake medicines globally and in Ghana is overwhelming. Do we know that a study recently conducted in Kintampo showed that 4 out of 10 medicines in that region were either fake or substandard? That our credibility in quality of medicines is so low. Mr. Chair, this provides opportunity to pool forecasting and demand for medicines and negotiate better prices for medicines whilst controlling and tracking quantity, quality in each step of the value chain.
The Med for All platform is readily available for everyone seeking healthcare in Ghana. For Joy News, I am Hannah Odame.
And that'll be all for the bulletin. I'm Israel. Thank you very much for watching. You have a good night.